Welcome to the Healing H.A.C.K podcast. I'm Wilma May, your host. H.A.C.K stands for Healing, Abundance, Connection, and Knowledge, the core elements of real spiritual health. Join us as we explore ancient and modern tools, practices, and approaches for navigating a world that can feel fractured and demanding. You'll hear from experts across spiritual and healing modalities, as well as guests with powerful personal journeys. The goal is simple: to help you build a spiritual toolkit that actually supports your life. Let's begin. So welcome to the Healing H.A.C.K, which is about healing, abundance, connection, and knowledge. My guest this week is the wonderful Keri Perkins. So Keri is a really dear friend of mine, and I really have wanted to get her in the studio for some time. Keri is a cultural strategist, speaker, and former global head of communications at Nando's. She's also the creator of the Nando's Black Card. Now, my UK audience is going to know what the Black Card is, the Nando's Black Card. They might even know more about Nando's. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the scheme that connected this brand to artists that included people like Stormzy and Little Sims and Ed Sheeran. And this Black Card was something that was a sort of really amazing strategic communications move that everybody knows about. She then went and did a total pivot and then became this vegan yoga teacher and a sound practitioner. So she still advises brands across art, music, and culture, and helps them with their strategy and communications. She's the founder of Healing Sound System, which is all about movement and mindfulness and sound and your nervous system regulation. She's the co-founder of Wykd, which is spelled Wykd, which delivers free wellbeing sessions in communities in London. So she has also spoken at some illustrious places such as Tate Late, the House of Commons, International Music Summit, Brighton Music Conference, ADE, and she's a board member of Bridges for Music in South Africa. She's a badass, but she's also been on a journey like many of us. So I'm really happy to have her here and really excited to dig in with her story, her journey, and some of the wisdom that she's acquired as a result. So join us and enjoy. Welcome, my love, to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So excited.
I'm super excited, and I'm so happy to be here in New York.
Yay!
It's kind of a last minute decision, but I'm so happy to be here.
It came together.
Yeah, it came together. And when I stepped out, I arrived at night, and the next day when I stepped out into Williamsburg, I was like, oh my God, I'm in New York. I was so excited.
I felt like singing that song, New York City girl, 25, 35, come on, baby. You just kind of had that vibe, like you're like, I'm in New York.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a beautiful musical.
Yeah.
Skipping along. Yeah, it was great. And the sun was out. It was meant to rain, but the sun came out. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I do that for all my guests.
You are so giving. I love that. Thank you.
So I've known you for probably we were trying to work this out, 15 years? Yeah. Almost 15?
Yeah. Yes.
Something around that.
Something around that from London.
Yeah. We've both seen each other go through different journeys, phases, chapters in our lives.
Yeah.
And so when I met you, you were doing PR for Nando's.
Yeah.
And I was like, fellow PR girl, right? Because that was my first profession. Yeah. And also seeing women of color in the PR profession is always like, yes, my sister. But then, and you were traveling like all over the world at the time, right? Uh-huh. And doing really cool things. And tell us, first of all, tell us a little bit about your role, what Nando's is for people that don't, because they don't really know what Nando's is in America.
No, I mean, it's actually been in America for about 10 years now, in Washington, Chicago, a few other places, but it's not as well known as it is in South Africa, which is where Nando's comes from, and in the UK, where it really exploded. Other parts of the world, Australia, Middle East, other parts of Africa. Essentially, it is a chicken restaurant. Nando serves peri peri chicken. Peri peri is a chili that comes from Mozambique. And it just became a phenomenon. It's very accessible, but it's got this cult following. And I think partly that is because it comes from South Africa. It was this like little unknown brand. It was like, what is that? It's a bit weird. The service is a bit weird. I mean, it's more commonplace now, the kind of service and the type of sort of fast casual dining restaurant. But when it launched, particularly in the UK, it was this very kind of underground. Have you been to Nando's? And then you'd see the odd celebrity in there and cool sort of music artist. And it just became this explosion. And I said, like, it's an iconic brand. It really is an iconic brand.
Yeah.
And it was great to work there. It was so much fun.
Wow. And you created the black card, because the first I ever heard of this was my stepson, who is this half Egyptian, half Jewish R&B artist named Coltrane.
Check him out.
Check him out. And you hooked him up with one of these black cards, tell us about that.
My background is actually fashion, and then I went into pimping chicken, and all my fashion friends were like, how are you going to PR chicken? I was like, I don't know, but I'll find a way. And I did find a way. And one of those was through this mechanic called the black card. And essentially what it is a card that we kept it very underground. We didn't talk about it. It was a big secret. You didn't know how you got it. You couldn't talk about it. We had all these rules about keeping it sort of very underground and mysterious. But we gave this card which allowed you to eat free at the restaurant. And then you get all these perks. And essentially it was a time, I'm talking about when I did this over 15 years ago. And it was a time where social media wasn't what it is now. We didn't even use the word influencer, but essentially it was about working with influencers and up and coming artists, whether if it was music artists, DJs, people in theatre, sports personalities, and sitting down with them and just like having a conversation and going, how can we help each other? And it just became, I didn't realize it was born out of my obsession with getting my Soho House membership. So that's kind of where I got the idea from. Can we create, it was like turning things on its head, like how could we create this kind of secret sort of society, this secret little underground card that wasn't available to everyone, but actually Nando's is it's very affordable. So it was turning it on its head, really. So it was a kind of a cross between a Soho House membership and an Amex Black Card. And people used to say it was more difficult to get than a Soho House or Amex Black Card because we made it very mysterious
and exclusive.
And exclusive. But it wasn't just for the most famous. In fact, we had very few very famous people. It was actually for emerging artists, to support emerging artists. So you mentioned at the beginning Stormzy, Ed Sheeran, Little Sims. I had the privilege of working with those kids as they were back then before they were famous.
Okay, so this is such an amazing journey. I mean, going from fashion in PR and then going into chicken.
Pimping chicken. That was my life for 11 years.
11
chicken
years.
Pimp.
So you're in that corporate life.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
I got bored. And it was a great company, and we did a lot of purpose-driven stuff. It's a South African company. I did a lot of work with supporting artists, as I said, across the world, especially, working with Southern African artists. We had Anna's has an amazing malaria foundation. So I was doing a lot of purpose work, but I just felt it was time to move on from PR and time to move on from the corporate world. And it was just time. I needed to evolve and I needed to do something for myself. And and I just thought, it's a kind of company where people stay and never leave. And I'd already been there at that point when I was thinking about leaving for 9 years. And, as I said, I traveled the world and it was amazing. But then it becomes not so great because you're just in a hotel, or I was flying to Australia and staying in Australia for 48 hours. It was just getting it was just getting crazy because I just didn't want to be away from home. So it was time to do something different and use my brain in a different way and create something for myself. And so I walked away, and it was a really good decision. Although, you know, when you decide to change your life relatively dramatically, whatever that is, it comes with its challenges. But it was definitely, I don't regret it.
What were the challenges?
Financially, especially I left, you know, I got a very nice settlement to leave and they were very good to me. I sort of made the decision that I would, you know, have a bit of a break, but that 3-month break that I decided ended up being a year. And then the pandemic hit and I had qualified as a yoga teacher and...
Wait, back up.
Yeah.
Because the yoga teacher part.
Yeah.
What was the journey to that? What was the thinking? Where did that come from?
So when I had decided that it was time to move on, I hadn't left the job yet, but I knew that I needed to do something different. And I thought about, you know, maybe moving to another company like an Apple or a Nike or something of the same vein, which was kind of like a cool brand. I wasn't sure that was what I wanted to do, but I got into yoga over the previous years and it really helped me in so many ways, very subtly. It wasn't like immediately, you know, I became a different person overnight, but I changed subtly. You know, I didn't have the healthiest of lifestyles, I suppose. You need, you know, working as a PR, you spend your life on the phone. I used to sleep with my phone, like literally because I'd be
wow.
You know, you can call me at any time of the day or the night, chicken crisis, I am here, you know, and that's just not a healthy way to be. So, and that has an impact on your state of mind, your emotional, mental health. You know, I didn't sleep particularly well. So I got introduced to yoga at a music festival called Snowbombing. It's a
Snowbombing?
Yeah, it's a snow and music festival. And I mean, not much skiing happens. It's sort of throwing yourself down a mountain drunk.
Where is
this? And then
this?
it's in Meyerhofen in Austria. Okay. A great festival. I used to go every year. Andy, shout out to Andy, who introduced me to yoga in the sense of he told me about yoga. He encouraged me to try it. And he was working for a friend who was working for the travel company that was picking people up from the airport and for snowbombing. And we just had a conversation about yoga. And I don't even know how it started or why we started talking about it, but he had just qualified as a yoga teacher himself, although he's a photographer and does other things. And I was fascinated in the way that he was explaining yoga. He's a very cool guy. And I just said, you know, yoga's not for me. It's too boring. It's too slow. It's a bit woohoo. And he was like, nah, you are going to love it. I just know. And you need to try this particular method called Jivamukti because music is a huge part of the practice, the method. And I said, okay. And he said it's very physical as well because I love exercise. I've always been into working out. And he said, you'll really like this because you get the combination of the workout, the music, and there's this, you know, you will feel the benefits sort of emotionally and mentally. And so I was like, where is this yoga studio? He said, Notting Hill. And I was like, I live in Notting Hill, which was obviously quite weird. And I used to walk past the studio every day almost, which obviously was crazy. Anyway, so I went home, took a class, and it was just the most, I mean, it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. It was absolutely incredible. I felt like, I say this all the time whenever I talk about it. It was the first time that I can remember, probably since being a child, that I was literally absorbed by the moment. Yeah. And, you know, the music was going, my body felt good. But there was this peace in my mind, which I hadn't felt for a long time working in PR and constantly on the go and thinking how clever I am because I'm so, you know, I can juggle all these things and I'm here and I'm sleeping with my phone. And, you know, but actually my mind just needed to be still. And it was like, oh my God, it was like the most natural high. And, you know, that I've done some things that aren't so natural, but this was the best high that I'd had ever.
Wow.
And I became addicted to yoga in a sense, but, you know, not a bad thing to be addicted to. So when I decided some years later, after practicing a lot of yoga, that I was, you know, what would I do with my career moving forward? I knew that I'd, you know, done everything I needed to do. It was time to pass the mantle on to someone else. I went to Costa Rica and did my yoga teacher training, not to become a yoga teacher, but to, to understand what yoga and why yoga was having such an impact on my life, and to understand it from as the philosophy of it, to understand what, from what it was doing to the anatomy, to learn a bit of Sanskrit, just to go really deep into something that had changed my life. And I could tell you what the changes were, but I didn't know why.
Right.
And I wanted to understand why. So I did a Jivamukti yoga teacher training, which was hard. It was so hard. It was so hard, like spiritually, emotionally, mentally, everything. Like you were just so open. You were getting up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, practicing hard. Your body hurt. Mentally, it was exhausting. But it was just exhilarating. And I decided in Costa Rica that actually I wanted to teach yoga, and I wanted to teach yoga particularly to people who didn't think it was for them, because I didn't, for whatever reason that is. I mean, there's so many barriers to yoga, whether if it is, I'm not fit enough, I can't touch my toes, it doesn't come from my background, there are a million reasons. And I wanted people, being a Black yoga teacher, to be an example of, you can do this. It's not exclusive in any way. It should be inclusive, but unfortunately, how yoga has been presented and things are changing, and there's a lot of people standing up and talking about how it should be inclusive and showing a different body types, for instance, or having it's a different narrative. But the dominant narrative is that it's for people who are skinny and women that are white and all that kind of business. So I just wanted to come from a different angle. And also I wanted to, music and sound, the yoga of sound is called Nada, is a huge part of the method that I teach. But I really wanted to focus on that because I am so moved by sound. I work with musicians. I've come from a musical family. It was a surprise because I didn't do my yoga teacher training in order to become a yoga teacher, but it became a very clear calling, maybe, if that's the right word.
When you were at this yoga teacher training,
yes,
was it, and the reason why I ask this is because I think when people start to look at how other people have made decisions in their lives to shift course,
yes,
does it come as you wake up one day, you go, oh my God, I need to be a teacher? Or does it over the course of how long was the teacher training?
4 weeks.
So you were there for a month.
Yeah.
Did it evolve over that month? Did it kind of bloom into existence, or did it kind of hit you over the head like a hammer?
That's a really interesting question, and I haven't really thought about that. I think it was a whisper, and then one day I was having a conversation with my teacher, and I was talking about her journey, and she'd worked with Carl Cox, and and she's very cool. Her name's Emma, and it suddenly just went. It was a bolt. So it was a whisper, and then it was, yeah, this is what I need to do. And it was inspired by the conversation I had with her.
How amazing.
And that was it. It was very, very clear.
Was there any fear associated with this decision? Like, oh shit, I know I need to do this, but here are all the reasons why this can't work. I need more money. How am I going to do this? And what are people going to say? I mean, I don't know what might have gone through your head. Or was it like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, I think it was the latter.
Okay.
I'm going to make it work. I don't know how, but I'm going to make it work. It was a bit like going from fashion to chicken.
From fashion
People were like, this is really weird. And my fashion friends were like, oh my God, you're weird. How are you going to do that? And I was like, no, I'm going to make it work.
I love the fact that you can pivot without attaching importance to what other people think.
Yeah.
Because so many decisions by so many people are made because they go, well, God, if I do this, people are going to think I'm weird.
Yeah.
Or they're going to, I might lose friends, or I might, and then they may not actually fulfill their purpose. Yeah. That is like banging them in the face. Because I think these things are sent to us on our journey, these way markers, if you will, that say, okay, this is where you go down, to the right, not to the left.
Yeah. I think that, to be honest with you, it's not that I don't care what people think, because I think that's part of being human. But I've always been weird. And then once I accepted that I'm weird, I'm like, so what? You know what? There was, I've always been a bit sort of an outlayer somehow, but I've accepted it now. And so I don't worry so much about that anymore. And also I think because over time, not everything I've done has been successful, but I have had some, success in my life. And I'm like, well, you did that. You can do this. It might take some time. Invariably it does, but it's okay. I believe in myself. I really do. I back myself.
Yeah. And I had someone else say that in one of my interviews about having your own back. And I think that's a really important life goal and skill, is to learn how to have your own back.
Yeah.
And not just in terms of like subsistence, like just like, okay, I can pay the rent and I can, do this, but like really like being your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
Right. And learning how to, and I've said this before, my father used to have this saying, which at the time I thought sounded really selfish, but he used to go 3 cheers for me and to hell with the rest of them. And it wasn't until much later in life, when I'd gone through some stuff, that I was like, oh shit, like if I don't start taking care of myself, if I don't start being my own cheerleader, I'm going to end up living my life for what other people think of me.
Absolutely. It's like Snoop when he got his name in Hollywood. Was it Hollywood Boulevard?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And he was like, I want to thank me.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
For always backing me, relying on me. And it is, obviously we need people and we live in community and commune and everything. But I think that's it's quite a radical idea. And as you say, like, when you have that thinking or you express it to other people, some people think that it's selfish, but I don't know how that can be.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself. Only by taking care of yourself and looking after yourself are you then able to really care for others.
Exactly.
I think
100%. If I didn't take care of me, I was too busy trying to tap dance and please other people.
Maybe a tap dance.
How I love you, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, everyone's gone, and I'm left with myself, and I'm not, and I'm a mess.
Like quivering in the corner.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's beautiful that you got to that point where you just didn't give a fuck about how other people, because you loved yourself. Yeah. And this is one of the things I always talk about, and people probably get tired of me hearing, but again, I don't care. Is about the 3 things that how I live my life are having boundaries.
Yes.
Having much lower expectations of most people, and loving myself. And having those first 2 in place is a manifestation of self-love. Yeah. Means when I have my boundaries, I'm loving myself in that moment. And when I love myself, when I got those 3 things in my head, right? And having boundaries and loving myself doesn't mean that I don't love other people, or I don't care about other people, or I don't support other people, or I don't listen to what other people have to say, right? But it just means that, if I don't prioritize this first, I can't do any of the others authentically. Yeah. That part of your journey where you got clear on that for yourself, I think it's one of the most powerful things that people can do on their own personal journeys and timelines. Yeah.
I mean, this is slightly different, but, I was talking to, because obviously we're in a strange place now with, what's going on politically. The world is
burning,
you might say.
Let's just say it.
And, and we'll talk about it more about, self-care and well-being. And I was talking to somebody the other day about how that can feel like very light, talking about self-care now in a time like this when people are going through such hard times and war, But actually, radical self-care, as Angela Davis talks, is so important when we're in this political time, when activism is, I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm not one of those yoga teachers that's like, that is part of it.
You're not woo-woo.
Actually, no, but it's actually about, it is about having an opinion and having courage, and the activist side. I think yogi should be activists, but anyway, that's for another discussion. But that radical self-care is so important in this time in order for us to have the courage to do stuff. That has to happen from within.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to do anything,
to
make a change, to, from taking care of your family, taking care of others, to stand up against the government, the environment.
Yeah. We saw this during the pandemic when I started my nonprofit, Dark Beauty Healing, where we were giving away free therapy to women of color. And one of the things we saw, this was around that same time when we were hosting rooms, and one of the things that we found, because there were a lot of protests at the time around George Floyd's murder, and a lot of folks were, at home, but they were also protesting, and they were doing so many things, and they didn't give themselves enough time to heal and to process and to take time for themselves. And I found so many activists that were coming into our rooms who were really burnt out, and they were on their knees, and they didn't know what to do. And of course, if you don't have access to any kind of therapeutic healing tools, you're just on your knees.
Yeah.
So we were seeing a lot of that. And this was one of the things that really kind of opened my mind up to the fact that if you're out here protesting and being calling things out and doing all of that, then you have to, I personally believe you have to also balance that with taking that time out and away from the screens, from the protests, and just taking care of yourself, whether it's a daily meditation or yoga or your practice where you carve out that time and that becomes sacrosanct.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not, it shouldn't be a privilege. It should be.
It shouldn't be a privilege. It should be. That's part of the reason why I want to be able to, I don't even know if the democratize is not necessarily the right word, but be able to share with folks all the different tools that exist that people can access to start building their own healing toolkit. And that's kind of what this whole podcast is about, because there are so many different ways to do it. It's not just therapy. It's not just yoga. It's not just any tool, but it's like, okay, that one works for me. Let me try. That's new. I didn't know about that. Let me try that one on for size and maybe add that to my toolkit.
Yes.
So I think when we start building our toolkit, we start, and then changes over time. Your toolkit changes. But if we're open to discovering, implementing, embracing, integrating that into our lives, then we can go out there and actually really fight for the things that are right and be healthy while doing it.
That's so important. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. So did you grieve the old life in the corporate life?
I've not thought about it like that. But I mean, I have to admit the identity shift was an interesting process, because the person I was, not the complete person, but aspects of the person I was died. And, I was very popular because I was Keri, the PR director at Nando's. People wanted to talk to me and people wanted to hang out with me, and I was invited to things, and all of a sudden you call people up and it'd be like,
oh dear.
But that was funny. I found that quite funny.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't a problem, but I did kind of notice, but I mean, it was fine. That's a world of PR, right? It's fine. You don't take it seriously. But yeah, there was an identity shift that needed some adjustment. But it wasn't that hard.
Right.
Yeah. Because I knew what I was doing was right. And, there are some aspects where, I'm like, I did that. Do people know that I did that?
Right.
That's me.
Right.
But it's fine. I let it go. It's all good. It's in the past. And what I'm creating now I feel is so much more important and means so much more to me, although I'd done some great stuff.
In your bio, it talks about how you also formed Wykd for the community. Tell me about that.
So, I did not do that on my own. I have two incredible co-founders, and they actually approached me Lauren and Rob, who are yoga teachers, but do other things as well, as many of us as yoga teachers have to do other stuff. And I had been thinking, as I said at the beginning of my yoga journey, I'd always wanted to, teach yoga to people who didn't think it was for them. And a lot of the time, yoga is inaccessible due to finance. And, I no longer live in Notting Hill, but live in the area around Notting Hill. And, coming out of the pandemic, which obviously affected so many people, plus Grenfell Tower, which,
awful.
We talked about the other day, happened and affected the community in such a devastating way. And people were broken. And, these two amazing yoga teachers, I didn't know, I'd heard of them. They approached me and said, we want to do something. We know that, we're coming out of the pandemic. We know that yoga is not going to pay your electricity bill, but we want to create a place of refuge and safety. And, people obviously became isolated during that, lots of people during that period. So if we can create a place where people can find that's, home, then we should do it. And we did, and we decided that we would, find a community centre, a place called Bay 20, and 3 of us would start teaching, and then it just grew from there. And we've got, a group of amazing yoga teachers that, are on the same, mission, and we want to provide our community with free classes. The majority of the classes are free, and it's not just about people who perhaps can't afford. That's why we started it, because of the, the financial barriers to yoga for some of us, but also because we wanted to create a place where people felt welcome and included, and doesn't matter what background, Notting Hill, it's such a great area with, so much richness and culture. And we wanted to make sure that everybody felt welcome. And that's also in the styles of yoga that we teach. We teach, vinyasa, meditation, Africa yoga, and we have teachers that really represent the community that we teach in. And that's really important. And, I'll find, and people come because it feels like the best day at, I don't know, the Notting Hill Carnival. So sometimes I'm in Soho House and I'm like, you're in Soho House when you come to my yoga class, but it's fine. I don't mind, because it is about the community,
right? And
everybody comes together and practices together, and it's a really beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, it's a Soho House membership, so what do they ain't got no money to pay for a yoga class?
Exactly, that's true. Everyone is welcome.
But wait, back up. African yoga? Excuse my ignorance, but I have never heard of African yoga.
Yeah, so Kemetic yoga, it's, some might say that yoga, if you look at the, the history of Egypt and the hieroglyphics, you might think that they're creating yoga poses. So there's definitely a lineage back to ancient Egypt.
Okay, but we're not talking sub-Saharan. We're talking like Northern African.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How interesting. And what is it? How is it different to the yoga that most of us know?
That it's about breath work. It's about meditation. It's about creating different shapes, but they're called different things. I don't teach it personally.
Okay.
I've got an amazing teacher called Efua or Dijedi who teaches Africa yoga, but it is, it's a similar philosophy, but different postures, different ways of sun salutations, but it comes from that's a lineage, which is really important for people to appreciate, that these practices come from all over. These indigenous practices. Yoga is from India, but there are many places where there's a similar kind of philosophy, Southern Africa, of combining movement, song, sound, breath work, and it's a philosophy that's has a similar vein to Indian yoga.
Fascinating. I definitely want to check that out. As your practice evolved, you then more recently incorporated sound, but beyond just music.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, as I said, sound has been, and music has been a part of my life forever. I did try to play instruments when I was younger, but fortunately I didn't really have the patience to play my flute and my saxophone. But music has, always moved me. My parents were really into music. I mean, my mom actually started playing the drums in her 50s, 60s.
That's so cool.
My sister's a classical musician. Being Caribbean, obviously, music, sound systems, has been a huge part of my upbringing. So music has always been there, and obviously it was a part of my career, particularly at Nando's, and now I sort of work with a lot of music brands. So I always knew and understood instinctively how music moves you, how music brings people together, how music is part of a community. Sort of a couple of years ago, I decided that I would use my voice. I do mantra anyway, Indian mantra, but I would use it even more, and then I would incorporate instruments, like resonant instruments, like the crystal bowls, the Tibetan bowls, shakers, rattles, drums, chimes, because those instruments, they're ancient. Most of them, most of the crystal bowls, they're quite a new invention. Although, we think that maybe, they're quite new. There is some thoughts and studies that the Egyptians did play crystal back in the day, back in ancient times. But most of these instruments are ancient instruments. No one really knows where they came from. They were created by superior beings because they have these resonance and they have these harmonics, which is very different from the guitar, or where there's a fundament, there's a note, and you don't really hear other notes or overtones. But these instruments, who knows who made them? When you listen to them, you hear these harmonics, and these harmonics have an impact on your nervous system, on your brain wave. They help you meditate. They calm they calm the nervous system, and they help you. You basically become, we are vibration. Obviously, we're vibrational beings, and these instruments have an ability to entrain you and to change your mindset and to dissolve the ego. And I've experienced the most powerful sound meditations. Some people call them sound baths, and they are another way of meditating, another way of remembering who we are. And so I incorporate those now, either with a yoga class, or I might collaborate with people, or I'll create a sound journey or a sound meditation.
What is the difference between sound meditation and sound bath? Because you often hear the term a sound bath, but if you see someone's doing a sound meditation, is there a difference? Are they the same? Is it just you decided to use a different wording for it?
Yeah, I have been inspired by an amazing sound. I mean, he wouldn't like this, sound guru, but he's an ethnomusicologist called Alexandre Tanous. The reason why I don't particularly like the word sound bath, or he doesn't, is because sound bath sounds very passive. And in a meditation, as you practice meditation, it's an active process. So it's not about just coming into the environment where someone's playing these instruments and just lying down and just like having a nice sleep. It's actually about you. And you talked about at the beginning, going back to you saying of being an active part in your healing. So that's why I don't call myself a sound healer either. I don't have a problem with other people calling themselves healers, but that's not who I am. These instruments are very powerful. I'm very lucky that I connect with them and I can play them, and they have an impact on people. But it really is about me facilitating, and the person that's receiving being active in the process of their own reflection, meditation, mindfulness, integration, healing. So it's empowering.
Right.
Yeah. So really there's probably no difference in terms of, if you book a sound bath or a sound meditation, but I feel that it more accurately describes the process.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
You also teach around the world. now, don't
I
you?
have taught in a few places, yeah.
Is that something that you want to do, you're going to do more of, or do you still see yourself as just London based, or,
Yeah.
you know, because I in the hopes that my podcast is global.
Yes.
So moted be.
Yes.
That, you know, people seeing this can go, where can I connect with Keri?
Yeah. I mean, I'm predominantly in London. I work from a particular studio in London. I, work in other places where it's hotels, but I also go to different festivals or conferences.
Got it.
Whether it's International Music Summit, which is in Ibiza. I've done stuff in Amsterdam. So yeah, I do move around if it's the right.
Were you teaching in Vienna?
I did teach in Vienna for a month, but I wasn't doing sound there. It was yoga.
Okay.
Yeah. But with the yoga classes, I always incorporate music. I might work with a DJ. I will bring in my sound bowls and instruments as well in Shavasana. So music is a huge part of the yoga practice as well.
What kind of music are you playing?
Oh gosh, it could be anything. I mean, I've worked with Amapiano DJs, Afro House DJs. I've, worked with classical musicians, percussionists. So it just depends on the environment and what, the theme and what I'm trying to communicate.
Were there other people doing what you do? Or was this kind of like bringing like DJs in and was that a thing? I mean, is that a thing? I've never seen it.
I'm sure
before.
there are other people.
I only heard about it when you started doing it.
I'm sure there are other people that have done it, but
Okay.
I think that I would say this, wouldn't it? The way that I do it is very different, and the DJs that I work with predominantly are those that have a practice. So it might not be yoga, but they have a practice of meditation, or they understand consciousness. So what they're bringing, so they're not just bringing tunes,
Right.
which is fine. They're bringing an element of expertise in terms of what we're trying to do, in terms of, as I said, like whether it's the reflection or the opening or the grounding. So we go on this journey together. It's not just about some banging tunes while you're doing yoga.
Got it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we're trying to convey something. We're trying to take the body. Yoga isn't round. It's not like, the way I teach it, the way I've learned to teach it, and Jivamukti is an amazing method. It's not just random postures. There's everything's deliberate. Vinyasa krama is a deliberate process of connecting the breath to the movement, and the postures that we select and the way that we select them is not just for the sake of it. It's a process of taking you on this journey. Yeah, and the music is so important to that. It's not just actually it'd be nice to have some music. It's
like a narrative.
Yes, it's a narrative. Yeah, it's a great word.
I wonder, with this work that you've done and this journey that you've been on, because you kind of described yourself as somebody who wasn't woo-woo. I mean, this is pretty damn woo-woo now what you're doing. So 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 was that part of you that didn't see yourself as that? How do you see yourself now?
I mean, I think the way I describe woo-woo is not that I've not been a spiritual person. I've always been a spiritual person, and I was actually a Buddhist way before I became a yoga teacher. Okay. So, but I mean, what I like about Buddhism is that it's kind of quite logical in a way.
It's philosophy.
It's a philosophy. So it's not that I negate spiritualism at all, or things that you can't see or things that you can't measure. But I feel that today, particularly, there's a lot of stuff that is said and done without maybe the right due process or thought, and it's a lot of wishful thinking and bullshit.
Yeah.
And spiritual narcissism and all that, which, take that does that, and it's like, oh, really? So I'm just very cautious. I'm just very cautious about what I say and how I approach things, and not that I don't believe in magic. We talk about magic. I don't believe in magic, and I certainly believe in in spiritualism and
what's your definition of magic?
Oh gosh,
because see, again, like a lot of these terms are like, even the word spiritual,
yes,
or spiritualism.
Yeah,
people have different definitions of what that is. So I'm interested in what you think, or what your definition of magic is.
Well, I think the human this is kind of, I suppose, where neuroscience and spirituality and it all comes into play, because it's not an either or, it's an and it can't always be explained. Energy, which is science, our mind, our, we can make things happen that seem fantastical or impossible. So, I just believe that, nature, the human mind, the human mindset, we can change things. And that to me is magic. I don't think that everything we see is necessarily the way it is, or everything that we can measure is the way it is. But then at the same time, because this is why it's an and, there needs to be some element of can't just say
rigor
rigor. Yeah. Rigor. Maybe that's the right word. Yeah. So it is an and. It's an and.
Yeah, I feel like the both coexist.
100%.
And I feel like there's also rigor in magic. The way I define magic would be, and I would probably define magic and spell magic differently to most people. I would probably say M-A-G-I-C-K, which usually indicates some form of mysticism or occult. And when we talk about magic in that realm, it's around transmutation. It's around, creating and shifting and changing something from one thing to another. I'm sure there's definitely a better definition than I'm giving it right now. I don't consider myself an occultist, but I grew up around it. As someone who grew up in a contacted mystery school, I was steeped in this my entire life. I reckon if someone decided to study from a scientific point of view occultism, apply scientific rigor, they might actually be able to define that more scientifically for those who need that. But it still exists nonetheless.
Yeah, and I obviously over time, so many things have been lost because of the way that Western science has tried to, or has successfully, negated some of this stuff. And you can go back to the Greeks and Plato and, a lot of them, like Socrates he took his own life because of the understanding that there is the science and there's the logic, but then there's also something else, and there's the mysticism, and that exists in the world. And I think that we've lost so much because we're always trying to.
I think it's still there.
Measure.
I just think it just kind of goes, it's more hidden. It's just hidden. It's secret.
Yeah.
Some of it has become secret.
Yeah. Well, it's still there, but it's not.
Yeah. I don't think we've lost it.
Yeah.
I think it takes interest. I think it takes curiosity from someone to go, rather than being dismissive, right? Because I see a lot of folks who are very dismissive of, one, spirituality, however one defines that, two, occultism or mysticism, because Hollywood has had a really great, effect on how people think about that, right? And how people think about even things like witchcraft, right? 30 years ago, you didn't just come out and say, well, I'm a witch. Right. But then, of course, you see we've got, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Absolutely.
And we've got the craft. And we've got, and by the way, they had real witches advising them on the filming of these types of things. Right. And then, of course, now everybody's a witch.
Yeah.
You just have to go onto Instagram and witch talk is a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just think it's important for people to be discerning but also to use their own, be skeptical. There's nothing wrong with that. Be skeptical, but investigate yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where the truth is. The truth is in here.
Yeah.
It's not out there.
100%.
So I suppose that's a really important part of it. It's and this is the truth as I see it.
Yeah.
I
think when you talk about having the skepticism and so many people don't think critically about most things in their life. Leave spirituality and mysticism aside. Even with scientific process and journey and rigor, all of that. I think people get fed this stuff. We go, look what I saw on Instagram. That said this, that must be true.
Yeah.
And we think we're not that person that doesn't think it. But so many times I've had to catch myself.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Yeah.
Saying, look at this.
Yeah.
And I've done zero research into it.
Yeah.
And and it's probably junk science.
Yeah.
So we have to be skeptical. I think we have to think critically about a lot of the stuff that we're being fed, generally speaking, right now. We're in this post-truth world. And, back in our day, I say our day, I'm still older than you, but considerably. And, but back in like the 90s, pre-social media, there was only the sort of mainstream media that was disseminating information and that we had to work with when we worked in PR.
Sure.
And so people had only a few sources of where their information came from.
Right.
By the same token, they also didn't have areas that they could go and easily research that. The internet was still very young then. And now, not only do we have an infinite amount of ability to research things, but we no longer know what really truly is true, especially now given the world of AI that we're in. Yeah. So I've developed the belief that if we don't learn how to connect to ourselves, cultivate ourselves, and build that personal ritual of our spiritual health and know ourselves, that's where all the truth lies.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think, we are bombarded with so much information.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And it's very difficult for us to discern. I mean, it's not great for our health. It's not great for our brain. And that's why meditation or yoga practice or taking a walk in, the forest or wherever you are, and, is so important. It's that hygiene. And then when you have that and when you get, you find that stillness for however long you can do that for yourself, it might only be 10 minutes, 15, it might be even less. It's so important for that hygiene of brain and discerning what is important, because sometimes I end up worrying about things and I'm like, why am I worried? That's just such bollocks. Like, it's just a waste of my energy and it's a waste of my time. But that only often comes to me when I'm in meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the reason why these practices are so important, particularly at a time like this, because we can't discern what is important. We end up on a, YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah. Oh, and I know people that really have gone down that rabbit hole. Many people don't realize how susceptible their brains are. And I have seen people who have gone down a lot of informational rabbit holes give up their trust to
defer their trust.
They defer. They I think give up their trust to people they've never even met.
Yeah.
They've never actually experienced the cut of their jib in person, that energy. And they will be fed someone else's truth
as they see it,
and then incorporate that and then spew that back out. And I've seen it a lot in the last few years in different people, young, middle-aged, older people. And that's a story for another time.
Well, we all have a human brain.
We all have a human brain.
And it has the capacity for brain entrainment, which can be positive or negative, or somewhere in between. So we really have to take responsibility for what's going inside. And I do think that having these practices can really help with filtering what's important and what isn't, and what's worth paying attention to, because that's how they get us. And the dopamine hit, which is very clever, social media.
So, just kind of rounding everything out, is there something that you wish someone had said to you 10 years ago? Or do you just think, you know what, I was on the journey, I was good?
Yeah, I think I was on the journey and I'm good. I mean, maybe a bit more financial advice might have been helpful. I think I came to the point that I'm at now through an amazing journey. So, and I wouldn't want to not go through that, because I don't think I would be here now, especially with going through the corporate world and working really hard and going a bit crazy, and then finding yoga and spiritual practices. I think I've been just quite open to sort of following my nose in a way.
Yeah.
And so, no.
I love that.
I don't think so.
You were trusting the journey and the process.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to do that.
It's really hard.
It's really hard to do that, but
it's very uncomfortable.
It's part of it, isn't it? Yeah. When I mean, it sounds like a bit of a cliche when I say it, but I do feel when there's a resistance, it's telling me something. I mean, obviously it's telling me something, but it's actually a good thing in many respects. When it's a resistance, not when your gut's telling you, don't do, screaming at you, don't do that, don't do that. But when there's that kind of resistance and a little bit of an uncomfortable, because I think that can be a place of growth. Yeah. And why would we be here otherwise? Unless we want to grow. Right. Learn and grow and have fun.
And have fun. Yeah, fun's got to be part of that. Yeah. And speaking of fun, what are you most excited about for your future? Anything you're building that you're looking forward to? What's next for you?
I am so passionate about my journey with sound and working with people who are on the same journey. And I've, in the last sort of few years, I've collaborated with such amazing people, and I just want to continue that and grow that and use my voice. I've always loved singing, but I've always been a bit reticent about my voice. I've never
heard you sing.
Because I think the perfectionist in me is like, I'm no Lauryn Hill. I shouldn't be singing, I'm no Erykah Badu. But having the confidence to use my voice in a way that has this healing capacity and it can open people's minds and hearts to things. I'm really looking forward to how I can use my voice in that way. And it's just so interesting. I have an amazing singing teacher who I met in Greece, I didn't expect to meet her, but I did, and she's really helped me. And one of my intentions, and I guess it's no coincidence that I've been in communications, is to use my voice and to trust my voice, and in order to grow as a person. Yeah, so it's not just about perfecting my singing voice or my mantra voice, or it's about using my voice to grow. So, meaning what I say what I mean, being more comfortable, because, we are all subject to this, to, a certain mindset, and not, we come into the world, don't we, with certain rules that have been, and conditioning is the right word, conditioning, all of us have. And on my journey, I have been able to recognize to some degree that conditioning and how that conditioning has prevented me from doing things that would benefit me, my growth, or other people. And all the conditioning is actually fear. So there was a fear of using my voice, because actually, going back to what you said, I probably do care what people think. Why is she saying, she's no Lauryn Hill, Yeah. So being able to have the confidence or the will, or shedding those suits, as Ramdas says, shedding that meat suit, and to use my voice in a different way I'm really excited about that, and collaborating with amazing musicians. Yeah. And working with you on the launch of Sordo Intention Water. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really fun when we put something together for that. This journey that we're both on, this journey of both discovery, shedding old patterns that don't serve us anymore, and just really going for things as part of, one of the reasons why I adore you. And I think that, I've seen you go through these different iterations and chapters over the years, and having that courage to step out of what was safe and go into something that meant something to your heart, to your soul, and listening to that, and having, I don't even know if this is the case, but a belief that it's going to be okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if you can't see it right now. Like, that's courage to me. And I love that in people. And I love helping folks to cultivate that. And so this journey for Sourdough Intention Water, you know, is kind of part and parcel of what I'm doing with the podcast, which is how can we help and support other people in connecting to that part of themselves that goes, okay, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because I keep hearing this message in my soul. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but I keep hearing it. It's banging me. So I need to go down that pathway.
And really, that's kind of none of your business, the how.
Bingo.
It's like just
yeah.
You know, and I'm very grateful to my mom, actually, because she's always said to us, my sister and I, just, you know, encouraged us to go for it. You know, and another thing that I suppose I'm looking forward to as well is, you know, I do work with other brands and businesses on sort of comms and brand stuff, and being able to reconcile working in that environment still, but with the wellness or the well-being or the yoga side of things, to bring those pieces together to help people in that way. So it's not just about the corporate, right, we've got to do this, we've got to write a business plan, like what's your business strategy, what's your mission, but actually bringing those other elements to help other people in their business, because it has helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still have but you're doing it from a different place.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. You've got both things, both skill sets in play still.
Yeah,
I mean, I love that. And, you know, and just for me doing this work and connecting and reconnecting with who I am, myself, my spiritual self, my higher self, I don't know if I want to reincarnate. I'd like to get the lessons and do the damn thing in this life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
okay, humanity, great. Thank you for this experience. If I've been here previous lives, I'd like to get I'd like to do it and then just move on to the next plane of existence.
I hear you.
don't know if I want to keep coming back.
Yeah, no, please.
So, right?
You don't need to come back. It's been great.
It's been great, but thanks. Good. So I think you on this journey is, you know, I tip my hat to you, madame.
To you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Just a pleasure to have you in my company, and I'm so inspired by you. And you are.
Oh, thank you.
An absolutely beautiful person.
As are you.
And I love you so much.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much again.
Thanks for listening to The Healing Hack. If this conversation resonated, subscribe, leave a review, and share it. You can find me at The Healing Hack on Instagram. And for more on cultivating personal ritual in your life, and to discover the products we are creating to support that, follow Sourdough at Sourdough Official on Instagram and at Sourdough Rituals on TikTok. Until next time.